is. I'm working on it.
No, good. Whenever you're ready, we're good.
I lost my... Oh, not this again. This does not like me.
Oh, your Wi-Fi?
Yeah. Does not like me every time I get here. Okay. Now, before we get going, there's a lot of things that we are not going to certainly talk about, all the things that are in the packet regarding, let's see, I'm looking at discussion.
Oh, for that site?
Yeah,
No, I put a lot more information in the packet than you really needed, but.
okay. And then as far as the updates for the parks and that, I don't have any other information other than what you printed.
Yeah, and that's really all I have too. It's very short, so I can go through those. They're
This
pretty
is your meeting today.
short.
Good afternoon. We are reconvening the Park and Rec Committee, and I've got to get my act together here. I'm going to start out, first of all, if we have any public comment or suggestions. I'm going to ask again, any comments or suggestions? Any comments or suggestions? Seeing none, I will move on. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from
It's
Shucks.
5:10, Jody.
From the, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong page here. From the, I believe it was a January 6th meeting,
February.
February 6th meeting. I'll
I'll-
take a motion.
I'll
Motion-
second that.
motion
Also make the
by-
motion, yeah.
Was it Lou?
So Lou?
Motion
second
by
by
Lou, seconded by Alder Killian. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? None? Motion passed. We'll get into then number 5 on your agenda, discussion and possible action to apply for Wisconsin assessment monies for 218 South 14th Street. Do I need a motion for that?
Well, if you want me to talk about it a little bit first, you can
Yes.
either do a motion or I can talk about it first
Nope,
and then
I'd
you
like
can
to have
decide
you
what
talk
to do.
about it a little bit,
Okay.
but not as lengthy as what was in the packet.
Right. Yeah, so I found that document, well, I'll get to why I put that document in. So I laid it out in our agenda summary, basically what I'm looking for today from the committee. But we were contacted, so a couple of years ago, Alder Peckham, when he was the chair of this committee, had been looking at that site. He had been reached out by a couple of different people, potentially one gentleman wanted to buy it and then donate it to the city. But we've known, and I think this committee has, I know this committee has, in meetings past, had some information about this site when we were talking about it, and the fact that it does have known contamination on it. It is under a private ownership right now. There's been for sale signs up and down on it over the years. I think currently there is not one on it, but I didn't go past it today, so I don't know. But Matt Thompson, who is the DNR representative who we've worked with quite frequently on both this property and on Riverside Park, he's a member of what they call this green team for the DNR. So they contacted me a couple of months ago. I met with them, and so did Kevin Fable, our city environmental engineer. We sat down with them and just had this meeting about they have potential grant dollars, which is this Wisconsin assessment monies, available for municipalities and government entities to utilize to do site assessment on sites that they want to know more information about. And that's what it is. It's gathering information. It's not cleaning up the site, but it does come with it a plan. So if you were to clean up the site, here's what they would recommend to do based on the assessment that's done. Because this site is in private ownership, these monies are not available for private owners. They look at it in that the private owner is responsible for taking care of the contamination. So one of the things, do you have a question? Did I hear something?
No, I was just clearing my throat, Miss
okay.
Polly. Sorry, my apologies.
Sorry. So when this brought up a couple of months ago, Alder Killian did ask, to ask this group what contact they've made with the property owner, why the property owner hasn't cleaned it up. So we did ask that, and the DNR has made contact with them. They have sent them multiple letters, so if you go on to the DNR's page, according to this, that has all the information on the site, there's a number of documents. And I know in past, I have included some of those documents, like the lien that's on the property now, and it's not a lien, it's a, I forget what it's called. Affidavit of something. But it's basically on there that anybody who's going to purchase it is going to be notified that they have to clean it up when they purchase it. So it's going to make sure that that's their responsibility. So they are aware of it. It's not a high enough the contaminations on it are not considered high enough risk that the DNR was able to pursue it any further. Sometimes if it's a high enough risk, they can pursue it and send it on to the Department of Justice, I believe, the DOJ. Yeah, the Department of Justice to basically bring that person into court, do court direction to clean it up. It doesn't meet that level, so that's why it's in the current state that it's in. It's still under ownership, it's still required to be cleaned up. It can't transfer to anybody else without that person having that responsibility. But it doesn't reach the level that they can do anything more with it. So they asked us if we were interested in even just doing the site assessment so we can get the plan in place. If we did this first part where we would get the assessment done and it would tell us what we would need to do to clean it up or to get it to a space where we could use it, the city could take that information and decide whether or not we'd want to purchase the property from the property owner, and then we would be responsible for cleaning it up. We would at that point know what that entails. Right now, if we purchase it, we have no idea what that entails to clean it up. So we don't know if it's $10,000 or $100,000. We don't know. But we could do that. There is loans available to help clean up. That would be something the city would have to pay back. So there isn't grants available for the cleanup side of it that are not a loan. So that's something to consider down the road. The one thing, though, that we have to do in order to do the site assessment is you have to get permission from the property owner in order to go on the property to do this assessment. And that's kind of where we're at. The DNR has made contact with the property owner. Mm-hmm. They are willing to talk about assessment. They are requiring if they would give us access to the property. So they're not willing to talk about assessment. Sorry, they're willing to talk about access. If they do give us access to the property, they are requiring, I put that in there, that they're requiring a waiver so that they, basically that nothing changes once we do the assessment, that they still have the right to clean it up, but it's how it can be. That would be something I would work with our city attorney and the DNR on if we got to that point. So I put the document in your packet that I could find. It's a lot of information. It's not necessary all for this. However, it does give you a picture of what they found on the site and kind of where it's at the moment. Mm-hmm. That was information that basically you as a committee, if you want to have, if we're interested in the site at all, to just see what it is, what's all on it, what the mitigation would be, and get that price quote of what that might be, to maybe potentially look at purchasing in the future, or if someone did purchase it and then wanted to donate it, if we wanted to clean it up. I mean, that's the kind of the questions that we had before, is we just the unknown. If you'd like to pursue that part, that's what I wanted direction from the committee today on, is if you would like to pursue that, then I would just like a motion for me to contact the property owner to get that access to the property, and then apply for these WAM funds in order to do that site assessment. And then we'd get the information and we'd go from there, but with no obligation to the city after that. Or we could just walk away at this point and leave it.
Miss Polly, I guess I would be curious as to why this is coming to this committee to begin with, because it's not a park or a recreational area.
It's coming to this committee at this time because the initial pursuing of this was to add to the dog park, which is a park, and this committee did develop that site. So if from my understanding of talking with engineering, the only use of this land by the city would be to add it to the dog park. There really isn't a desirable use for it for any other reason that we would have.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah.
Would the committee be interested in letting Jamie go ahead and pursue this, or should we leave it at rest right now? What are your thoughts? Alderman Killian?
I've just got some questions and comments. Would that be okay, Madam Chair?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, and thanks for the information today. I think it filled in some of those gaps or questions that we had talked about last meeting. I think one of the confusions last time too was exactly in a situation like this or any other, how do we make a determination of should we do this? Should we see if the responsible party ultimately does something? I know on the southwest side, there's, the former Connor site there, and there was an indemnification agreement on that, and we don't know, I think as a council or, is that going to be ever utilized? So, I think this might be something interesting in the future, just if not this body, the council, just do we have kind of an approach to these types of things? But this seems like kind of a one-off and perhaps an opportunity if the responsible party is not going to clean it up. I guess I had one question ultimately for maybe if you meet with the green team again, I'd be curious as to, when they said that the risk wasn't high enough for the DNR and DOJ to pursue this further through other means, I'd just be curious as to what their calculation or estimation was for that. This is in my district, and like other areas in District 3, I've run the EPA's EJ screen reports before, on the southwest side. And one thing very interesting about this census block group is it's, a very high percentage of low-income residents, about 77%. So, I think there are some kind of environmental justice aspects to this. It would be good to get it cleaned up and cleaned up well. I just would have, based on some things I've seen with investigations elsewhere in the district, if the city were to take this on with the DNR through this program, there would be a few things I think might be really useful during the investigation. And one would be the full definition of lateral and vertical extent of contamination. So if there's an exceedance by a property boundary, and in this case, you've got the dog park right nearby, what we've been seeing on other sites in the district is even if there's a valid exceedance of state standards right at the property boundary, the DNR has just been allowing the investigation to cease. And really, I think in all these situations, it would be a good idea to get the full definition. I think administrative code tends to suggest that's what's required, especially with the dog park right next to it. I went down there and walked past it today, and it looks like there's a big kind of slope to the east.
Yes.
And, of course, the DNR is going to be involved, but this is kind of like near the area by Chellis Street on the southwest side where there's a slope. I think the question was about stormwater impacts and did this migrate at all? So that's why I brought up the full definition, just to make sure this hasn't impacted the dog park already. And then just two more quick things would be, I only had a brief chance to look at that report. It's very large, but I noticed that there were a variety of contaminants, not just one. So, if you were to investigate kind of all the contaminants of concern. And then lastly, because of the environmental, the stats of being 77% low income, and I see that on the EJ report, it's above the 80th percentile on a lot of the environmental justice indexes. I think it might be really positive if the city does this and goes through the steps, and maybe it doesn't work out, who knows, maybe it does. and you do the investigation and it's time to clean it up, would be to have maybe a public participation meeting like you did for the skate park or whatever, just so residents or citizens would have a chance to know what's the state of the contamination and be able to voice their opinions on the level of cleanup. I mean, maybe the DNR says you can just cap everything, or maybe it's got to be excavated, but maybe just a meeting so that people could be involved. And really, those were just my thoughts, and they're very similar to other areas in the district. But yeah, if the RP won't clean this up, I'd think it looks like an opportunity so it doesn't sit there forever. Thank you.
Alder Larson. Alder,
Watson.
I went, just
Sarah's fine.
Alder Watson, and it's only Monday.
Yeah. I guess like, is there any clear cons of pursuing, like, at least we know what's there. Like, I guess I don't see any cons unless the contract can't be worked out to have, the right terms that we'd like in that contract for access.
Yeah, that would be the only hindrance, really, is it's up to the property owner to allow us access and what their terms would be, and if yeah, and that would be up to our city attorney to work that. But when I talked with the green team, I don't see how it would hurt us to find out exactly what's there, and really I think it's helpful to get what that remediation would be and then the cost estimate to it. I think that was the biggest question is, you can get the property for probably a fairly reasonable price, or if someone buys it and donates it, then it's, not a cost to the city. But the unknown of what it would take to clean it up, and for the uses, if we would add it to the dog park, for the uses that we'd have, it would most likely be a capping, just like the dog park is with a certain cap on it. And if we put pavement on it for an additional parking area, that is considered a cap as well. But it all depends on what that extent of that contamination or is. And when I talked with the green team about some of they didn't give me numbers as to what the calculations are of why it doesn't meet that higher standard, but some of the things he said they look at is, proximity to houses and where this is located, proximity to water or the water system, the fact that it's very heavily wooded, so it hasn't been disturbed. The parking area, like the gravel area, has been disturbed, but the majority of this property is now wooded and pretty stable. So that was some of their calculations for that, or their, not calculations, but their reasoning for that, but calculations probably they have as well. So yeah, to answer your question, I don't know that there is a negative other than, that would be probably up to the property owner to decide, now we know what's there and how much it's going to cost, and then whether they sit on it or not. But
And I think to the point, though, that Alder Killian mentioned, it's nice to know what's sitting right next to a public space where a lot of people are. And, dogs are digging up the dirt. And, I know the turf is,
yeah, it's closed at the moment.
Yeah. Oh, it is again.
Well, because it's too wet.
Yeah. But I know, dogs dig holes. That's the fun part. And water runs downhill. And, yeah, they drink out of puddles. Like, it'd be nice to know what's there.
Sure.
So.
Does the committee feel that they want to move on with this?
I-
Alder Larson.
I would like to make a motion to move forward with this, simply because, we need to know what's there. And once we find out what's there, perhaps if we decide we want to clean it up or not, and also it would give us an idea what was there and what we could offer the owner to purchase it. So I would make the motion to move forward with this.
I would second it.
Okay, I have a motion from Alder Larson to move forward with WHAM.
We'll be first
the
working
monies?
with to get access, and then if we
Okay.
get the access, we would apply for those monies.
Okay, and I have a second from Alder Watson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion passed. Moving on to 6A, I'm going to turn that over. There's quite a few park updates, and Jamie's doing a great job, so I'm going to let her give us some of the updates or what's happening.
So we have a little list there, and it's pretty much as it says. Now that we think the snow is melting, but who knows if we get another snowstorm. Our guys are still ready to go plow and take care of snow and ice if we need to. But we are starting to we're starting to get a jump on some of the projects that we have scheduled for this year that you saw in your work plan. Earlier this year with getting that decking replaced on the Barker Stewart Bridge. We had it ordered last year and we just didn't get to it, so we're starting to put that in. Some of our water systems we're starting to put together. We put a lot of the water systems, the pieces together in our shop, and then we take them out and we get them installed so that we can get the waters in the bathrooms done. We typically do that more towards the end of April, just because there's still the potential for the freeze thaw, but we're starting to work on that. And then, with this warmer weather, the playgrounds are being used even though the frost might not be out of the ground, so technically they really shouldn't be used, but we don't have the ability, no community has, well, most communities don't have the ability to close your playgrounds down, so we started inspecting them as soon as possible to, shut down any areas that we might need to, or to make any corrections that may have needed over the winter. We installed some new locking systems on the concession building at River Life for the bathrooms. The video board at Athletic Park was installed, or has been installed, so that was something, that our city donated allocated $50,000 towards, and then the foundation for the McDonald Foundation of the Woodchucks put the rest of the funds in for that video board. That will be a big improvement to Athletic Park. And then because of that, we had to go in and put some new footings in, so the outfield fence of Boyle Field has some adjustments that need to be made, so we're doing those. But we're continuing to work on all of the, shutting down our winter stuff, getting our summer, spring stuff. As soon as the snow is melted, we'll really be working on turf, because in a little over a month, we've got a soccer tournament and a lot of athletics starting. Baseball will be starting shortly here, and so that's always a really crunch time for us in the spring.
Then I'm going to let you talk briefly about 6B remediation, the park remediation.
Yeah, so I contacted the Director of Public Works because I contacted him when I gave you just the update when we didn't meet last time and nothing had happened, so that's what I had given you. And then shortly after that, I guess we did get the remediation work back from the consultant. So I put in your packet what he had sent me for that. It is out for bid at the moment and uploaded to the software of Quest, which is what Public Works use. So they've been doing this, and then bids will be opened on the 18th, and then the Public Works Director will be bringing forward that budget request to get the work done to the Finance Committee following that, which then will come to City Council. So that will also have the schedule for the contract and the estimated timeline. So I'm relaying that from Mr. Lemon. But it's still going forward.
Thank you for all that information, Jamie. I greatly appreciate that. Our next meeting date for the Park and Recreation Committee is going to be Monday, May 1st, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. And at this time, I'm looking for...
Just before you adjourn,
I'm
you
sorry.
skipped the future agenda
I
items.
did.
I just wanted to request, does anyone have any future ones?
Yes, Alder Larson.
I got.
Larson, I did it again. Would you switch places?
So is it, I know the dog park committee has sort of been put to it's dissolved as it was, right? Are we thinking about investigating anything more for another dog park or additions to what we have? I don't know.
Well, we talked about it. I put out a call last time for people interested, and I only got 3 people of the same committee.
Okay.
So I didn't get a lot of response, and honestly, because of that, I hadn't pursued it. But I went back through and looked at all the different sites that we had looked at before, and as far as I have, in our recollection right now, I don't know where else we could put it, but I guess if we had any suggestions, we could have a call again for people who are interested in it. If we do go ahead with, item 6 or 5 that you did tonight, and we want to expand, I think that, at that time would be a really good reason too. So I guess if the direction of the committee is that we want to do a call out for it again, I didn't get any response, so I hadn't moved forward with it. And I tried after that one meeting to make lists of where, a second bigger dog park could be, and at this point, I
And I
don't
think the-
have a suggestion.
I think the one that you had mentioned that I don't know, but it was out more in Sunnyvale, which is county property, right? That was
Oh.
one that you had mentioned that
Yeah.
had a lot of walking paths and stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that wouldn't be a city thing, so.
Yeah, that would be county.
I'm always want to find places for my doggos.
Yeah.
So, just something to think about.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that. Any other?
I'll keep thinking though. I'll keep thinking, and if I can, even if it's for discussion of sites, I have it on my board in my office, Second Dog Park, and I've just kept it there as a future agenda item. So I'll do some more thinking if I can. If I have ideas, I can bring it. I can even contact you and see where we want to go from there.
Perfect. Anything else that you might perhaps want to add to the agenda for next month's meeting? If not, I'm going to move to adjournment. I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting. Motion by Alder
Also.
Larson and a second by Alder Killian. All in favor to adjourn this meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Meeting adjourned.